What's going on, everyone? It's Mike, it's John back again. Hopefully the headphones sort out the audio issue from the other video, so apologies for that. John, I think we need to talk about last night a little bit, but there's not loads to shout about. But there's a massive manager search going on, so let's talk about last night. We won 2-0. It was fairly convincing. Peterborough did have one shot, really, that they got excited for, to be fair to their fans. Sang all game, although it was quite a lot of the same songs over and over again, but a decent bunch. They come to Goodison, put a good account of themselves. How happy was you with the Everton performance against the League One side who was struggling?
I don't think it was great, and I think you could see that Sean Dyche had got the team ready for that game last night, and by all accounts, it was his team that started the game. Obviously, we've seen a few tweaks, and you pointed out very early to me that there was a lot less long balls played. We tried to play more around the back, and I don't know whether that was because we probably had two decent football and centre halves on the pitch. But we did seem to use them more. We used the midfield more. As I say, there wasn't as many long hoof balls that we've seen under, I will call him now, the previous manager. That was evident last night. So obviously Baines and Coleman have said to them, look, try and play more football. Wasn't a great performance, but listen, we got the job done. We're into the next round, and by the time we play whoever our opposition may be, we will have a new manager in place.
Yeah, I thought it was really weird. It was almost like, we keep saying this was a Sean Dyche setup and it was a Sean Dyche team. We played 3-5-2, which I can't tell you how many times I've seen Sean Dyche do that, but it was 3-5-2. And we didn't play a long ball. We had a shot on target within 2 minutes. And half of me thinks, if he'd have been willing to give some of these a go in the league, maybe he'd have still kept his job. Maybe we'd have got a few more results. Maybe the style of football wouldn't have been as boring. Because at times last night, I know that people said the game was boring and it weren't a great performance and it was still clearly a Sean Dyche style, formation and whatever. But keeping the ball on the deck, I much enjoyed last night than I have done the last 18, 19 games. And I know it was a boring game, and I know we wasn't great at it. But if we'd have been doing stuff like that for 19 games, maybe we'd be half decent at it. Maybe we would have been better at passing through the lines. And, the goal that we scored, the first goal, was a through ball cutting through a defender from a 17-year-old, a highly rated 17-year-old, but from a 17-year-old, someone that isn't necessarily soaked with this Sean Dyche, way of playing. Somebody that is prepared to turn on the ball, somebody was prepared to find those gaps. And I saw it last night. We saw Mangala. I haven't seen a single match reaction. We didn't do it either. Nobody mentioned the fact that we hit the crossbar after 15 minutes on a half volley from a corner. Nobody's talking about the fact that we had a shot on target after 2 minutes. Nobody's talking about these things because we're so indoctrinated in the Sean Dyche way of play that the more I look back at yesterday's game, the more happy I am. The more happy I am that we were keeping the ball on the deck. And yes, it wasn't great. And we did play ourselves into trouble at times. But it just looked so much better than it has done in recent weeks, in months, in years. You just hope now when you bring in better players and hopefully a better manager, you hope that we can keep pushing that forward. And occasionally you have to go long. But you don't do it every single game. And last night was a good game not to.
Every team in the Premier League, mate, will have some part in the game in a match where they do go long because the opposition closed them down that quick. And I know what you quite rightly say there, that we did get, caught out a few times when we were trying to play the ball around. But when you look at it in hindsight, then players aren't used to that. We haven't really done that for 2 years under the previous manager. So there is going to be mistakes. And as you quite rightly pointed out, with better quality of players and a manager who will do that more often, players will grow into that sort of football. So there was going to be mistakes. Another thing I wanted to point out that I noticed last night, is the fullbacks got forward more and put the crosses over more. You know, I watched the highlights earlier on, and there was one where Nathan Patterson ran at his marker, and he sort of, when he was at the corner flag, he beat him and he cut inside and he got the ball across. I haven't really seen that from Nathan Patterson. I'm one of his biggest critics. But under a different manager, you know, whether that be David Moyes or whoever it may be, you might see more of that from the fullbacks, because we've pointed out on here many times that our fullbacks don't get down the wings and cross the ball. You know, and it was, as you quite rightly pointed out, it was a good move, and it was football. It was a footballing move that we scored the first goal from. You know, Harrison Armstrong, I watched the goal. I did, where we were sitting, he didn't really get the beauty of the pass that he made. I thought Beto made a good run. He kept himself just onside. It was a great through ball by Harrison Armstrong. That's what we've been crying out for from our midfield, and we haven't seen it. You know, maybe Harrison Armstrong under a new manager will play more often than the likes of Decore. You're going to see your fullbacks attacking more and getting the ball over. You're going to see your wingers being wingers. You're going to get, you know, perfect example, when we had Moyes in charge and we had Baines and Pienaar, they were overlapping all the time. Whether it's going to be David Moyes again remains to be seen. It looks like it is. Maybe you might see your wingers and your fullbacks doing that again, because it worked. I'm not saying our fullbacks and wingers are of the same ilk as Baines and Pienaar were, but we need to play more football on the floor, and we did try it last night. And listen, it proved that there is some half-decent footballers there who can play that way of playing. Yet there was mistakes and we did get caught out. But it's going to take time, you know, and as you quite rightly pointed out, we're indocumentated now with this Sean Dyche mould around us, you know, and it's going to take a long time to get what we've watched for the last 2 years out of our system. And what I will point out, regardless of any manager who comes in now till the end of the season or a longer contract, it's not going to change overnight. The football's not going to change overnight, because when these players are being taught by a dinosaur on the training pitch day in, day out, and the way they've had to play, you can't just flip it on its head and turn it right round. So it probably isn't going to be pretty, and I don't think we can afford for it to be pretty from now till May. You can't play pretty football when you're 2 points above the relegation zone. So it's not going to change overnight, but I do think it can't be any worse, and I do think it will be a touch better.
Yeah, there's another thing I want to mention about last night. I get the emotive side of this, but obviously Ashley Young come on for Everton on about the 70th minute, and his son Tyler stayed on the Peterborough bench. Now, from what I can see, it's very split, very mixed opinion on this. For me, Peterborough are never in the game. He made a good comment, Darren Ferguson, that you know, at 1-0, he wants to bring on a striker and get a result. I get that. I do get that. Do you think it was the right decision for the young lad not to come on, or would you have brought him on if you were Darren Ferguson? I know what I would do.
Well, I don't see the big clamour around it, mate. He hasn't even been on the bench this season, hardly, for Peterborough up until last night. You know, and I think he was put on the bench only for the simple fact he could have played against his dad. But you've got Darren Ferguson saying if Everton would have went 2-0 up or 3-0 up earlier in the game, I probably would have brought him on. Everton didn't score the second goal until injury time in the second half. So why would you? Why? He'd only be doing it for the clamour that's been around this father and something of this cup tie. The cup tie is bigger than Ashley Young and Ashley Young's son. So I sort of get Darren Ferguson. I agree if it would have been 2-3-4-0 after an hour, yeah, bring him on. But as Darren Ferguson pointed out, they were behind in the game. So if he brings him on just for sentimental reasons, he had 3 centre forwards on the pitch there, on the bench there. They're going to be sitting there thinking, well, so he brought him on because his dad plays for Everton, but yet we're centre forwards and we could go on there and possibly nick a goal.
Yeah.
I side more with Darren Ferguson, to be fair.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, I was interested because I'm more the other way. And so I'm more of that substitute on the 88th minute. I probably would have brought on the young lad personally, but you know, it's one of those things. It's split of opinions. It's not an issue at all. I just think it would have been nice. You know, I think it was the first time that Peterborough have played Everton at Goodison Park, if I'm not mistaken. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, or it was the first time that Peterborough played Everton in the FA Cup or something like that. It was the last third round tie at Goodison Park under the lights, and I just think it would have been a nice little stamp. You know, father and son also played in that game. You know, even if it's for a minute, I just thought it would have been a nice thing for the history books more than anything, John. That's all. It's more sentimental for me, and I'm much softer than you are, as Lisa knows. Talking about the manager question, because I think that's important. Obviously, Sean Dyche was sacked yesterday, and by all accounts, Monday, Tuesday, he had a conversation with the freaking group. He said basically he's took Everton as far as he can. He's ran out of ideas. And the freaking group were quite disappointed at that. They played hardball on the compensation, and Sean Dyche and his backroom staff have left probably a little bit with a tail between their legs, because the freaking group have not been a pushover and they've not got the bonuses that they were hoping for. It's one of those things. We move on. I'm sure Sean Dyche is still a fairly wealthy man, I would have thought. But we're now looking at new managers, and there's been a few linked. Jose Mourinho, Francesca, or however you pronounce his name, and David Moyes. There's a massive split opinion about all of those managers. Lee Carsley's been mentioned, Wayne Rooney was briefly mentioned, and Leighton Baines has also been mentioned. But, John, out of all of those people that I've just mentioned there, who's the one for you? Like, who's the one that you go with? I know that's a tough one because we might have a different opinion on this, but who do you go with personally?
The safest pair of hands, and we said this on here the other night, for now, probably safer than Jose Mourinho was David Moyes. And I know a lot of people don't want him, but listen, you've got to move on. And I've seen people on Twitter calling him a rat and putting the clippings up of the Daily Mirror newspaper where he called Everton fans a disgrace. He did do it, but he's still got an affinity to the club. He knows the club inside out. I'm not going to say he's an Everton fan, but he's got a lot of time for Everton Football Club. He was there 11 years. It's the safest pair of hands. There was rumours that it was going to be a contract till the end of the season. There's a couple of stories coming out now, which I've sent you, that it looks like it could be a 2-year deal. I'm unsure about the 2-year deal side of it. But then when you look at what managers we've had since David Moyes was here the first time, apart from Carlo Ancelotti, which also we were 10th when he left us, no one's really pulled up trees. And you told me his win rate this morning when he was at Everton was something like 42% or something like that. It's a safe bet. Am I all over the 2-year contract that he's asking for? Probably not. But listen, I had this conversation with my dad before, and also me and you spoke on the phone this morning. We're not attractive to big name managers. It's as simple as that. That's the short, sharp point of view that I've got. We are not attractive to big name managers. The likes of your Guardiola, I'm not saying Guardiola and Klopp would come, but big name managers like that who've been successful, we're not attractive. We're still in a dire situation. We can't spend much money in January. And when you look at what David Moyes done when he first come, he ran Everton on a shoestring budget for the majority of it. If you look at some of the signings he brought in, he got the best out of what we thought were average players. Tim Cahill from Millwall turns out to be one of Everton's probably better players that we've had in the history of the club. Fellaini, he brought him in. He brought Phil Neville in. Lee Carsley was there. You know, look at some of the goalkeepers he brought in as well. I think he brought Nigel Martin in. He brought Tim Howard in. You know, he's got a good scouting network, David Moyes. Now, whether he's able to use that in January or the summer, if he gets a longer contract, remains to be seen. There's rumours going around that his assistant is going to be someone called McKinley. Now, I'm not sure who that is, to be fair. Lee Carsley was touted as being his assistant. He doesn't want to come as assistant, but he would be open to the job, possibly if it was available in the summer. So I just think to go with David Moyes now for the situation the club's in, I think we could do a lot worse. I think Everton fans have just got to, I'm not going to say greet him with open arms for the Everton fans who don't want him, but regardless whoever comes into our football club now, whether you want him or not, and people could say, well, you was the same with Dyche. Yeah, I was the same with Dyche, but at the end of the day, we've got to get behind a new manager, get behind the team and just push us over the line from now till May. And if he is here in the summer and he's able to spend money, then so be it. But we just need to be in the Premier League when we go into Bramley-Moore. And I think out of all the managers you've named, I think David Moyes is the safest bet to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to put some meat on the bones for people. I get people's emotions towards David Moyes, and I get the way that he left. I was, 18, 19 years old when David Moyes left Everton. All of the happy times that I saw with Everton growing up was under David Moyes. I don't remember the 95 Cup final. I was 3. I fell in love with football at probably 9 or 10. That's probably the normal age, really, when you completely fall in love with the game. I was playing anyway, but I really fell in love with the game. And, I watched and moulded the way that I played football to players like Mikel Arteta and Steven Pienaar. And, we played a charity game in the summer. And I'm not saying this, by the way. I am saying this, but I'm not blowing smoke up my own backside. But people were telling me that I played the way that Arteta used to. I'd look for them spaces, I'd look for those gaps, I'd look for the pass. I could miss an open goal. I tried to imitate the way that I played football on Mikel Arteta because he was like my idol at Everton. There was
Jan Mulvey and Neil Ruddock.
Brilliant, yeah. So I grew up with those teams, and then you look at the players that he signed, and I'll go through a couple of them here. John Stones was David Moyes' last signing for Everton. 1.5 million, sold for 50. Jolyon Lescott bought him for 6 million, sold for 26 million. Kevin Moranas, 5.5 million, would have sold for a lot more if we'd have sold him. We constantly had this ability to find bargains. Phil Jagielka, £4 million, Leighton Baines, £6 million. These are players that played for England and got over 25 caps, 40 caps, whatever it is. Good footballers, and on top of that, he built a team that would win for him, die for him, run through walls for him. He had a fan base that at times was a bit heavy on him, I would say. We sometimes did get a bit bored of the football. But his last season at Everton finished 6th. He gave Roberto Martinez some incredible foundations to build on. We went into a pre-season tournament against Real Madrid, Juventus. David Moyes put us on that footing before Martinez. He did a good job. And the way that I would explain David Moyes to anyone now, from person who doesn't have the animosity towards Moyes that some people have, and I absolutely get why you have. So I'm not. This is just my opinion against your opinion. If we are different, but David Moyes to me is a manager that got us into Europe, who left us on a stable footing, who did get it wrong at Man United in coming back with the Fellaini bid and the Leighton Baines bid and some of his comments. He absolutely did. But he did a similar thing at West Ham. He went back for a second time at West Ham. He took West Ham from 17th in the league, and 2.5 years later, they're winning the European trophy. That is David Moyes. He did it exactly the same at Everton. He did it exactly the same at West Ham. And honestly, John, I'll go as far as saying I'll put my neck on the line. It would not surprise me if you give David Moyes 2.5 years at Everton. He does exactly the same with Everton, because that is what he does. He builds these teams that are underachieving and he gets them into Europe. And then it's up to you what you do then. You either strive and change the manager, you go for the league, you go for the Champions League, you go for all of that glamour, or you stick with the steady Eddie David Moyes. And we saw West Ham. West Ham, they lost David Moyes in the summer. He took them to a semi-final. They didn't have a great season next season, but it does happen. He had bad seasons at Everton. 2010, we finished 11th after finishing 6th the year before or something like that. It happens. You have to rebuild. You have to give managers time. West Ham have just had to spend £15 million or whatever it is on sacking Lopetegui and his board and his backroom staff. So anyone that sits there and goes, we shouldn't go backwards. I hate David Moyes for the way he left. He's a rat. I don't agree with it. I get it. I 100% get it. But you also can't have a dig at fans like me that remember finishing 4th in the Champions League spot, being knocked out by Villarreal completely unfairly, going and playing teams like, you know, in the Europa League and finishing top of a group, you know, going to places like, who was it at the time, who finished top of the Bundesliga when we went there and beat them? But Lukaku scored, was it Werder Bremen or somebody like that? They were second in the Bundesliga, and we went to their place and beat them 2-0. You know, how can I get over those memories when in recent times, I don't remember Koeman in Europe. I remember getting smashed 5-1 by Atlanta. You know what? I don't remember a European season since then. I don't remember sitting there getting excited, going to games of football. And the other thing I'll say, John, and I'm sorry to just go on ranting, but when you sit there and you look at the win record and the games that he managed for Everton, and you look at all of the other managers since, nobody's actually done better apart from Carlo Ancelotti. And even he underperformed at the end because we were second at Christmas and we finished 10th behind Leeds, who had just been newly promoted. So as much as we can sit here and say we don't want David Moyes, in my opinion, David Moyes right now is exactly what Everton Football Club need, in my opinion. Well, and if people don't like that, I'm not trying to annoy you. I'm not trying to upset you. But that is, David Moyes was the manager that Everton had when I fell in love with football. So you can't blame fans for having that emotion towards him.
I wouldn't be too worried about upsetting people, because at the end of the day, I wouldn't be hard, because it's your opinion, it's what you want. And you mentioned the players, and I mentioned the players who we had at Everton. Look at the players he brought in at West Ham. Mohamed Kudus picked West Ham over Everton. You know, Soufal, whatever his name is, you know.
Paqueta.
Yeah. If you look at the West Ham team now, they've got a better squad of players than what Everton have got. And when you look at it, most of them are David Moyes signings. So it makes you wonder where Lopetegui went wrong when you've got the likes of them players. Jared Bowen is another one, quality players. David Moyes needs time, and I know for the situation we're in, we can't afford time. He's got to come in and hit the ground running. But you hit the nail on the head before when you said David Moyes, and players have openly admitted this, who played for David Moyes when he was at Everton, that they would run through a brick wall for him. And that's what we need right now, because I'm telling you now, I guarantee you, none of them current squads at Everton would have run through a brick wall for Sean Dyche. So that's what you get with David Moyes. These players have got to run through brick walls now, because once he makes disappointments, whoever it may be, if it's Moyes, that's it now till May. And once this transfer window closes on the 3rd of February, that's it till May. So he's got to come in, he's got to hit the ground running. We've got to get as many points on the table, on the board as we can. And if he is allowed to do some work, you know, me and you were having a conversation. If it was a contract till the end of the season, why would the Freakins give him money to spend? Because then you couldn't get a manager in the summer who might fancy them players. So we're sort of if he gets a 2-year contract, 2.5-year contract, then I think he should be allowed to do some business in January for what we can, because we still are restricted. But then going into Bramley Moore, come the summer, apparently Everton can spend quite a bit of money. We're going to have to spend a bit of money. We've got 15, 16 players who could potentially not be at the club next season. 12 out of contract and 4 loan players. So it's a massive rebuild in the summer. Luckily, we can't spend money in the summer. It looks like it could be David Moyes if he gets this 2-year, 2.5-year contract as the man who takes us into the new stadium and able to spend money. I would trust David Moyes with spending money, because you look at his track record at West Ham and you look at his track record at Everton, you know, he spends money well, and he finds bargains. And you mentioned players before where we signed Leighton Baines for the likes of 6 million. Them days, that was probably, I wouldn't say the going rate because there was bigger transfers. But if you look at the likes of Leighton Baines and Mikel Arteta and Pienaar now, John Stones, Phil Jagielka, what would them players cost you now? Do you know what I mean? So we did find good players for next to nothing compared to what you'd spend on them now. Just think he's a safe bet. See how he goes towards the end of the season. There could be a stipulation. I think Graham Potter has got some sort of break clause in his contract where if it doesn't work out how he and West Ham expected to, then he can be relieved of his duties come May. But he's also being given, I think it's a 2.5-year contract. So obviously if he meets the targets, then he carries on with the contract and he carries on with the West Ham job. Possibly that might be the route that Everton go down with Moyes. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens. We've got a game next Wednesday against Aston Villa, which is a tough game. They're a decent side. We know how good they can be. It'll be interesting to see what manager is in place and what they do. The rumours have been that Everton are interested in a manager that already has a club. So that's not David Moyes, that's not Fonseca, that's who knows. But Everton aren't in a position to pay compensation, nor do I think they should right now. Every little bit of money helps. Everton have been linked with a winger from Lyon today. Is it Nawame? We were linked with him in the summer as well. We've obviously missed out on Jadon Philogene. So, is something happening behind the scenes already? Is somebody saying, I don't know if I want him or I do want him, or, what conversations have been having? Because fundamentally, the freaking group have known that Sean Dyche wasn't the manager since Monday. When that news broke on Sky Sports, they could have sacked him that day. They just needed to agree compensation, which hasn't been straightforward because it's essentially not what was written in the paper because he didn't get his bonuses. So, I'm interested. And I also think that the way that Dyche has left, something's happened because, he didn't even get a thank you on the announcement, on the picture with the flag, and the statement. There wasn't even a thank you for his service to Everton, and it just makes me think something's happened. It's got a bit heated, maybe, and that's that. He's walked out.
Yeah, it could be down to the Philogene deal falling through. It could be anything like that. He's picked up switch over Everton. It could be something like that where he flipped his lid because he didn't get his transfer targets and there's not much money to spend and it's come to a head. But it shows what this freaking group are really like, 3 hours before kick-off and they sack him. Now, as you quite rightly pointed out, it's potentially been done since Monday. We heard last night that, he did offer to get the boys ready for last night, and it was Monday that he did inform the Freakins that he didn't want to be at the club any longer. But they could have easily dragged it out till today. They could have waited till today and he took the game last night and stuff like that. But no, and I think I heard Adrian Durham this morning on TalkSport saying he can't remember stacking that close to a game in the history of the Premier League or the FA Cup or whatever, whichever way you want to look at it. But they can be ruthless. Should they have pulled the plug earlier? Possibly. But if things are to be believed, what you read, they didn't want to really make a change mid-season. I think they did want to wait until the season was over. So something has happened. They've had a disagreement on something. As you say, it's probably got a bit heated. Then Spitter's done me out the pram and said, look, I can't go any further. And they've probably, I think Sean Dyche has made their decision for them earlier. To be fair, I think he's pushed them to make a decision, hoping that he will get the sack. And he's walked away, not with what he was entitled to, but he still walked away with something. You can jump on a plane today with even if it's £1 million payoff, it's not bad, is it, when your contract was up in May anyway? So something's happened, but we move on. It was for the best. It felt like there was a different mood in the pubs last night around Goodison. You know, everyone's spirit seemed to be a bit lifted. Didn't feel like it was a chore to go over the game like it has felt for the last 18 months at least. So we move on and we just wait for the new manager now. And you say we've got a game on Wednesday. I think it's be done over the weekend. I think it'll be announced the weekend. The players have probably been given a day off today while it all blows over and we get a manager in place. I think he meets the players Sunday morning and he stays training for the game on Wednesday.
Interesting. Well, John, I've got nothing else to add unless you have, my friend. But yeah, guys, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Love your support as recently. So really grateful for that. And look, whatever the club does, you know, I think it's really important. I want to make this point, and John will agree with this. I know he will. But you know, this football club, take out the cup games, and take out the 2 games where we've scored 8 goals. You know, the Wolves game and the Villa game and the other game against Bournemouth. This team scored 7 goals in 16 games. That will send you down. So we've all got to get behind this team, no matter who the manager is, no matter who it is. We've got to get behind these players. And I know we don't like them all, and I know we think at times that they've not done a good enough job. And we on this channel are the first to do it and single out players and criticise players. But scrapping all of that at the minute, we just need results. And that starts on Wednesday for me against Aston Villa at home, a game where Everton have to get a result, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's a fresh start, isn't it? Now, you know, the previous regime is gone, whether you like it or not. You know, I had a fan on TalkSport absolutely flipping his lid saying because we'd sacked Sean Dyche, that's Everton going down, and he didn't want Moyes to come back, and that was the end of the club. And it was either Sean Dyche's son or it was a Liverpool fan, because I really can't see how Everton fans would want Sean Dyche to have stayed as manager. I get the ones who don't want Moyes, and as Michael pointed out, it's your opinion, we're all entitled to one. But under the previous regime, I would have put money on it that we get relegated. And listen, David Moyes or whoever it may be, there isn't many goals in this team. We all know that. There's not many goals in this team. But whoever comes in has got to do their utmost best to get this team scoring more goals in any which way they can. The football isn't going to be great because, as I said before, we're not blessed with top footballers and skillful footballers all over the pitch. Regardless of that, we need to start winning games. And to win games, you need to start scoring goals in some way, shape or form. That's what we've got to do. We've got to get behind the manager. We've got to get behind the players. And as I said before, push them over the line till May. Get behind them. It's a clean slate. It's a clean start for whoever comes in. It's a clean start for all the players. We've got to impress the manager now. And we probably will see different players getting picked most weeks now because Sean Dyche has tried and has trusted. But Nathan Patterson, I'm one of his biggest critics again. I think he probably gets more game time under the likes of someone like David Moyes. I thought he'd done okay, like Patterson. I think you're all going to see more of Jake O'Brien. Thought he'd done okay. But whoever plays, we need to get behind them and start afresh. It's a fresh start. We're all feeling a bit better with ourselves today. Now we know the managerial decisions being made on Seth Dyche. So we move on and we see who the next manager is. Regardless of who it is, we get behind them.
Yeah, perfect, spot on. Guys, yeah, we'll see you for the match preview for Everton against Villa, unless there is some breaking news, you know, Saturday and Sunday. We will obviously jump on and do a video, but yeah, match preview will be Monday. I'm expecting an announcement video for a new manager between now and Monday, so you'll definitely see us. And any big transfer rumours that we think has got some legs, then yeah, of course, me and John will jump on and do a video as well. But until then, make sure you hit us up on all our socials. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you subscribe. and you do all of those fantastic things that you've been doing fantastically. We love you all, you know that. And the love that we got last night was extraordinary, if I'm being honest. So thank you so much for your love and support. There was even a guy, and I don't remember his name, but I will remember him for the rest of my life. He was a lovely, lovely man. He's eating his dinner. He's got steak, and kidney pie and chips, gravy. He's eating his dinner. He has a picture with me, and then after he's finished his dinner, he walked up to where we was to have a picture with John. I had to, you know, that is just fantastic. So thank you so much for your love as always, and yeah, we keep smiling. I feel like it's fitting to end this video with up the toffees, John. Do you?
The People's Club is back, up the toffees.
Brilliant. I love it. It's been a different manager now when you fucked it.
Yeah. Big stop. Here we go again.
See you later, guys. Peace.
Cheers, folks.